This is just a quick shot of the finished product to start the video to show you how I changed a 1972 Cheyenne to a 1968 custom sport truck C20. And you can compare that to the picture of my actual truck on the screen. And stick around to the end of the video while I'll explain the different suppliers and parts and stuff that I use to build the model. Some of them are specialty items, so stick around to see where I obtained them. Let's go on with the video. This is not only the last installment of vehicles I have owned, but a truck I presently own. My truck is a 1968 custom sport truck C20. As you can see, the kit is a 1972 Cheyenne, which presents a number of challenges. The grille, the hood, and the tailgate are all different. I have looked all over the web for a 67 or a 68 only to come up empty-handed. There's no way I can pass off a 72 Cheyenne for a 68 fleet side by simply painting it the same color. Starting with the body, there's a trim line that goes all the way down the side and down through here that I had to take off. And I got this one here pretty well done. I've got the body pretty much cleaned up there. And there's a little bit left here that needs to come off. What I've done is taken the back side of a sharp blade and just dragged that along. See how it shaves that off? That'll save you an awful lot of sanding time. So then when I get that done, and I've got little strips of some 400 sandpaper that I've started with, and of course then you work it down to the rest of the way until you get it smooth. So that's the first issue, getting that part. Same way on the tailgate. Now on the tailgate there's a trim piece right here that has to come off, and probably have to remove all of this here, because on the 68 it's pretty much just a flat area through here with Chevrolet in black letters, big black letters. So that'll be a challenge. The next challenge is the hood. The hood on a 68, instead of coming down square like this, it's angled. So it's going to have an angle on it, about like that. So of course to do that, then I'll probably need to fill this area back here. I mix some crazy glue with baking soda or something to fill this in, so that when I get to sanding on here, I've still got something underneath. And I want to leave this front part untouched, so it'll come out like it's supposed to on the front of the body. Now the biggest problem of all I have to deal with is this grille. I'll put a picture up here of the 68 grille, and you can see that there would need to be a lot of work done here. First of all, I'll probably have to strip all this chrome off. It's kind of hard to see what you're doing with this chrome and the light's shining back at you and half blinding you. So on the 68 grille, these park lights are up here in the grille with the holes in the grille and the build out section. That is going to be a challenge, but without those things on there, I can't look at it and say, well, that's my truck. So there's going to be a lot of work involved here to get this looking like a 68, but well, that's part of the game, right? At this stage, I've got the trim totally sanded down and cleaned up on that top part, which ain't need to be there on my truck. There's a couple molding issues that I had to fill with some putty, and I've got the back tailgate to where all that detail that was on here, I took that all off, so that's a good flat area to put the Chevrolet, if I can find those kind of letters. about that size. And on the hood, I figured out where I needed to angle that back from pictures, and I've got a line here that you can see, and that's because ultimately I'm going to have this strip on here with foil on it. There's going to be a chrome strip on there, so I'll be sanding or filing from that top point of that up to here to get that rake on the hood a little bit. And what I did is I took some baking soda and I filled that in all the way across here, and then hit it with some Instacure super thin so it'd soak right in. So I would go to grinding and sanding and filing on here. Hopefully I'll have something solid under here. Hopefully I didn't pile this up too far before I hit it with the super glue. We'll see when I get down to there. So I got that ready to go. And then on the grill, that has to be totally done. I originally had this bumper taped off thinking, well, I don't want to, take that off. Maybe it looked better with it on. Well, of course, some of the cleaner leaked through the tape and started taking the bumper off, so I'm going to put it back in again and just take it all off. I'll just have to re-chrome that bumper. But I tried some oven cleaner, and it seemed to work a little bit, but it didn't do so much. And then I put it in this totally awesome, some kind of cleaner I seen on another video. Got it at Dollar Tree for $1.25. So I'm going to put this back in and see if I can get rid of all that chrome, and we'll be back when I get further along. Okay, my first step has been accomplished. As you can see, I got this hood angled back as it should be. And I got her all cleaned up and sanded up, and of course I used the wet sand attachments here, as well as some polishing compound to bring out a little sheen to it. I don't prime my models due to the fact that the way I figure it, if you can't get your body smooth enough to begin with, there's not much sense in spraying primer on it to sand out your imperfections. Get your imperfections out first. Now, if you want to establish a certain top color by using a colored primer, I can understand that. That would probably be feasible. But this is going to be an off-white truck, and it's, as you can see, it's pretty much white now, so I don't think I need to go through that step. The next part will be the grill. This is going to see who's the boss, the model or me. And I did get it soaked in that cleaner that I got from Dollar Tree, and by golly, if it didn't pretty much clean it all up. It needs to be washed up and everything, but it took all that chrome off. But this is going to be the biggest challenge of all in the build, is to cut out certain sections and add certain sections. So this is going to make or break the model right here. Let's continue and see how this comes out. Once I get past this, I think the rest of it's going to be kind of a piece of cake. We shall see. Okay, now we're going to fill in some of the uneven surfaces, and we've got to peel off these turn signal park lights because they are up in the grill on the 68. We'll be back to clean this up in a day or so. I made a little headway on the grill now, as you can see. Got my cutouts in there. Explained how I did that is basically there was a stamped grill already on here, and I took and just drilled some real small holes in each corner, and then I took a new blade and used the sharpened end to make a little groove and then turn the blade over to the backside and use it to scribe out until I had cut all the way through this thick grill, and then come back and sanded it out, of course, in between, and filled it with putty. Now what I'm going to be doing is putting this, it's 30 thousandths by 30 thousandths. It's going to be a chrome trim that goes all the way around these holes. That will be interesting. See if I can pull that off. Apparently, of course, you can tell a difference in color here. This is more of a yellowish. That's because it had the chrome trim on here. I'm wondering if they used something like a copper colored shellac or something. You can kind of see it in here where it's built up. It's almost like a glue, boy. You can't get it off. You can't sand it off. So then I spent much time trying to fit this on here. You had gaps where you didn't want gaps and this and that. I ended up wobbling out these holes more so I could slide it back or forth or up or down to actually get it to where I want it. I think it's going to look pretty good around that point there. Now the reconfiguration is complete between or from the 72 Cheyenne Grille to the 68 C20 Custom Sport Truck Grille. The park and turn signal lights, as mentioned before, are in the bumper on the 72, and they're in the grill here on the 68. What you see here is not the actual lenses, they're the backing plates for the lenses, which are these here that'll go in later after the front end has been finished. And those were made from scribing these pieces out of a spare piece of side window from another model, and then painting them with the turn signal amber metallic, which you can get at your local hobby shops. The 30 by 30 thousandths trim was added on here for the eyebrows, they call them, around the headlights, and across the hood, and in the grill itself. Those will be covered with foil. By golly, she's going to be a booger to get that looking nice. So that's where we are right now. Okay, now we're ready to paint my redesigned grill. Got it all taped off. I'm going to be painting chrome, of course, on the headlights and on the bumper. What I did was I used Testors Black and Testors White because they recommend when you're using this Green Stuff World chrome metal that you have a gloss coat. So these must be gloss, either white or black. And looking at it and comparing them, I think the one with the black undercoat gives more of a realistic bumper look. Looking at this here, that just pretty much looks kind of silverish. Doesn't really look that best. This to me looks more like a chrome. So we're going to go with the black Testors and put that black coat down first. So what I'm going to do is mix it 1 to 1. Bring this up to 4. And we want to, of course, mix it up real good. We got that paint on there. Now we're going to put her in our dehydrator. The old homemade, put that baby in there. Turn the fan on. At this stage, I've got the front end all trimmed out, and I have the chrome areas painted with the Green Stuff World chrome airbrush paint. Really happy with that product. Chrome, I think, looks better than what comes out on the kit. Nice deeper color. Got that done. Got the back of the rear bed trimmed out and tape covering the park lights, so I'm getting ready to paint. Then the tail lights will go in later. Got that done. And I got the hood on. I made an improvement on the hood on this kit. Even the bronze one that I made earlier, is these hoods always wanted to slide down. You could never keep them to stay up. So what I did is I took some pieces of styrene and I glued them in here and trimmed them to fit inside of this groove that they have on both sides. I guess they left plenty of room in there so you could lift up the hood. This one you can't just lift it up. You know, if you can get the top up and then finagle it a little bit, you can get to come up, but I'm not going to have it up that often. So for me, in my situation, looking at it in the display, I'd rather have that hood stay up. It was just a constant battle. I'd get the hood on there before and put it in a display case real nice and simple, and then set it up on the shelf as easy as I could, and by golly, if that didn't slide back down. So you can see on the bottom side here how that piece is filling in that gap here to keep that hood from sliding down. Just a little manufacturing design defect, you might say. So hopefully that'll be taken care of. It looks like we're about ready for the body paint. For those of you that are curious about how I painted the model, I will explain thus. I used this on my Bosch spray gun with the number 3 head. I went 50-50 on the Chester's gloss white paint with lacquer thinner. I then set up the sprayer to where I'm getting a good wide spray pattern, not as wide as I could go, but wide enough that you're covering, you know, about a half or a third each time you pass. And I do a thicker coat than some of those out there make videos where they go real small and they go spend all that time doing that. Well, that just doesn't work for me. Every time I've tried it, I probably either had too much pressure or I was too far away from it, and it ended up looking like I painted over sand. So that's what I like about this brush. It's as close to getting to a spray can for coverage as I think as you can get. I got the front of the tub painted. the back box, and as you can see, the cab. First, because I'm down in the basement, it's kind of on the cool side down here, I'll take a hair dryer on a warm setting and just kind of warm it up just a little bit, and then I'll go through and do my coats, and you'll see that it goes on a little on the wet side and still kind of maintains that gloss as I'm spraying it on. And then when I get to a point where I've got enough coats on, I think I'll come back with the hair dryer and warm it up again and help it to flash a little bit. And I'll set it aside and I'll go to the next part. I'll do the same thing with all the parts. Warm them up a little, put on a semi-wet coat, you might say, and set it aside. And then when I go to paint again, I'll warm it up again, and I'll spray it again, and then I'll warm it up again when I'm done. So that's pretty much how I did all of that. And I was using 20 pounds of pressure, for anybody interested in what I was doing on that. And I started wet sanding it. I got, I don't know, 6,000 or 8,000, or 6,000, I think, on this paper. And then I went to an 8,000 and a solution of water and a little Dawn soap. And I've only got as far as this top. I'm going to be touching up a little bit more, but as you can see, looking at it, I'll put it in the booth here, and you can see them overhead lights. Zooming in here, and you can see how it diffuses the light. You really can't see the lights. Now when I turn it over this way on the top that I've already wet sanded, you can see the individual lights, which means that hopefully the wet sanding process was a success. And that was another thing that's key to that is I used, like I say, probably that much paint, so I got plenty of coverage on here. I'm not going to be too scared unless I get stupid of going too deep. So that is the process I used on this, and I hope that'll help somebody out when they go to paint theirs. I want to take a moment here and bring up an issue that I've had with this kit more than once. This is the second kit that I've built of this, and the problem is on the chassis, as you can see, they got the tailpipes and the mufflers and the rails and everything all attached to where you sit your tub and your bed and your cab. Well, the problem with it is both of them I found there's a hump in them. With this, with the top piece up, there's a hump in it. So when you put your tub on and try and get your box on there, everything's kind of leaning to the back, and you got an excess gap between your box and your cab, and the tub wants to teeter-totter in there. So in order to cure that on this, what I did is I took a hobby saw and I cut across all of that crap. And then I took a piece of sprue, trimmed it down, sanded it, what have you, and I put one in the center here first, and that determined that I was able to bring this up straight then after that. And then once you get where you want it straight enough, then you just take some more sprue and just go back in and put a spot of hot glue in there and fill in the gap with that. So undoubtedly, if you have this kit, you've probably run into this problem. So just thought I'd share that with everyone. Just another thing to overcome. Another thing I did, you'll notice a toothpick in here. I wasn't happy with the way the back end was sitting with the wheels on it, and I wanted to put a little more lift, a little more space between the top of the fender well and the tire. So I wallered these holes out a little bit more, and I put a toothpick in there and hot milled it to hold that axle down. Otherwise it just flops around in the breeze. So that's another thing I did on it. Okay, I want to bring you up to speed here on where I'm at right now. At this point, I've got the interior done. Try to get as close to I can to what I've got now. Had to make a shifter for the column. That wasn't included in the kit. That was depressing. And I've got the wheels all done. Ironically, the wheels that I bought online are exactly what I've got on my truck pretty much. And I ordered the decals for the tires to reflect the same tires that I have. I've got the hood done and the Chevy lettering on it. I've got the truck bed pretty much done, and I made out of some styrene my toolbox, little toolbox there. That I'm going to be covering with Detail Masters diamond tread, if I can swing it, that is, get it to lay on and everything like it's supposed to. We'll see how that turns out. What else we got here? Yeah, we've got the front grille changed to a 68, which is going to go in it. The engine compartment, I've got the cab just sitting on here loose right now. I've got the brake lines running and the gas lines. I used some jewelry wire for that. They don't go anywhere because basically there's no gas tank on this. It's a preformed chassis and no gas tank. Not much sense in running any lines to something that ain't there. They terminate under the cab, so that's why you don't see them running down. And got the markers on the cab. I got the holes drilled for the rear view mirrors, which will go on, that I pinned. I've learned the hard way. It's nice to have your rear view mirrors pinned first. I'll be cutting off some of that wire so that when you go and put your glue, crazy glue on there, and you try and position it, it don't move all over the place and fall down and you get a glob of CA on your paint and everything else. So that was a pretty good idea I picked up from somebody. And started running things that are going to be hooked up after it's been, everything's ready for the final assembly, like a heater hose here. It's a red one. I've got a black one to put on yet, and it's just loose here. I'll be fastening it to the engine when I do the final assembly. And I've got the battery to do yet and stuff like that. For those of you who may be disappointed because I'm not really showing on film a lot of the details that I do, it's quite simply because I can't. My eyes are poor enough that I need a magnifying glass like a lot of you probably do, but my head's got to be right up on the work. And I haven't figured out any way that I could film that while I'm doing it without blocking, the view of it. So that's why you don't see a lot. Just do like I did, I guess. Go online and look at all the YouTube videos on model building you can and pick up as many ideas as you can, and whatever tools and supplies and things that you have at your disposal, apply them to your model the best way you can figure out how to do it. And I guess that's the best advice I could give you. Just do your own thing and just enjoy it, by golly. Just enjoy what you're doing. Do the best you can. Nobody's perfect. There's always builders better than others, just like every other aspect in life. But do what you want to do and do it the way that you feel comfortable with, and have something that you can be proud of when you're done with it. And that's the name of the game. Okay, what I'm using for the heater hoses is basically some telecommunications wire that I happen to have that came in this. And there's the ground sheathing for it. There's a red, black, green, and white wire in there. So what I did is you take you a hobby knife, decide how much of that you're going to need, and just score it and pull it off, and voila, you've got the sheathing, and there's little bitty nipples on the heater core cover to fasten to. So I take this sharpen deal, open up that hole a little bit, just kind of expand it, and then I'll go over that nipple with a little bit of glue. As far as preforming these, let's say you got this hooked up there and you want it to come down. It may not stay there, but if you take a lighter, a Bic lighter, and just warm that up a little bit, you can preform that. Let it cool. And repeat the same thing for whether you want to go left or right or whatever. And that's how I'm forming these heater hoses. Of course, the next one will be a black one that I'll be putting on. And then when I drop the final assembly together, I can fasten these other ends to the engine. So I thought somebody might be interested in that. So. Okay, we made it to the finish line. Here's the hood off of it. Few details. The heater core hoses are run, and on the battery I used solder and squished the ends to make it look like the terminals. Yeah, I stole that idea from somebody too, but got them run down, got the radiator hose hooked up, and the other engine details that I described earlier. That's that part of it. As promised earlier at the beginning of the video, some of the specialty stuff I got on here that I just couldn't find local, some of it. The wheels I got from the Hobby Wheel shop on eBay, and the lettering, the Chevy on the front and on the back tailgate, those all came from Maritime Models in the UK. I couldn't find anything to fit my needs here stateside. Of course, I would have preferred raised letters on the front, but that was apparently unobtainable. So through this Maritime Models in the UK, I got these letterings here. You know, these are 2mm for the front, and they're 4mm, or 5mm actually, it says here, for the back. You just take them out and stick on, use some water to place them, and that's where I got those in the UK. See, here's even a picture of the Queen, I think. Alright, now on the striped line down the side, I think it's for like railroad modelers or something, but it's from Woodland Scenes. I think I might have got it from Hobby Link. As you can tell, there's a variety of strips here, and it's dry transfer. First time for me, I was a booger. I can tell you from experience, don't try and put the whole length on at one time. Just do a little section at a time. And then I actually used this tool right here and just very hard pressed on it till you see it lifted off of the clear plastic, and then you're done. Okay, up next is the decals for the wheels, which came from a Joseph Osborne from Fireball Model Works. Fireball Model Works, where I got those. Toolbox I made out of 16th inch styrene. Just a piece of styrene. I cut all the individual pieces out. In order to get the right measurements on this toolbox, of course I made a diagram, and I figured what it would be in measurements in millimeters, centimeters, and then I divided by 25 and went with millimeters to make the box. And then diamond tread, that's what's left of it. That's from Detail Master. That's the number of it there. And then of course I had to cut them all out and glue it to the structure that I had made. Last but not least are these decals here. The bow tie with the 20 for a C20 and the CST for custom sport truck on the door. I waited probably quite a few weeks for these, but it's a little bit of a process getting it done. What I did was I took measurements of, say, this one here in millimeters or centimeters, and then reduce it to millimeters and divide by 25, and I come up with the size of it. What I initially did was took a picture of these and sent it to him. And who's him? It is Josh at Bedlam Creations. Bedlam Creations in Michigan? I guess that's what that is. And I initially sent him the pictures, and then he says, oh, and I told him I was going to go 1/25th scale, and he goes, well, I think I need more information than that. Okay, so then I made these measurements, and I edited each one of these pictures, and then in the editing, I put the measurements down in these millimeters so he would know what the finished product the size would be. So then he says, oh, okay, I can work with that. So he got them done. And as far as I'm concerned, these two decals right here made the model more than a lot of the other things, just because those are hard to find. So I had them custom made, and they come on a sheet like this. And I told him I wanted, one for each side, that's 2. And then 2 of these, that's 4, maybe a couple extra ones. So what they do is they'll send you a whole sheet of them. I don't even use the rest of them probably, but it was well worth it to get these on my model. That's what sets it off, I think, to me. But it's not like your regular transfers, wet transfers, to where just this little piece here and this little piece here got a coating on it so that when you wet it, this slides off. If you were to wet this whole sheet, all of these would slide right off the sheet. So what you got to do is take a hobby knife and cut that top clear coat that goes over everything. Just cut it out so that you just have the decal you want. And then I grab them, with some locking tweezers, and then this individual part here will just come right off, right onto your model. So it's a little process, but it worked out good. And I want to thank Josh for doing this for me, and this is just a small example of what he does. He can go with probably as big as you want on all kinds of stuff. Guy's really good. Josh is real good to work with, so that might be a tip for somebody that needs some custom decals that you just can't find. You look for decals on the web and you go through 30 pages of decals and you still can't find what you want. That's me. So this is the way to go if that happens to you too. So there it is. There's the model. Even got a spare in the back. And there she is. Hope this video was helpful to everyone. Oh, almost forgot my mud flaps. I think that come from Detail Master too, the mud flaps. Had to put them on there too. So there you go, everybody. Thanks for watching. Old Man Tech out.